Thank you so much for tuning in today. You're very, very welcome. Honestly, welcome back. And if this is your first time, you're also welcome. And please don't forget to share, like, and subscribe, because guess what? That helps to keep the channel going. That having been said, ESPN TV personality Stephen A. Smith has recently declared that he's leaving the door open to a potential 2028 presidential run.
I just think that it's a mess right now. I'm not scared. There's a lot that I have to learn. I am no aficionado, make no mistake about it. But damn it, let me hunker down for 2 or 3 months. I'll know the issues. And once that happens, then imagining me on a debate stage with these people, these politicians, this is what I do for a living. And if for no other reason than to stand on the debate stage with tens of millions of people watching, where I get to sit back and talk about what you've been doing as politicians to literally dissipate and disintegrate the quality of America before our very eyes because of your own selfishness. Me having an opportunity to do that, that is what I mean when I say I will eat them alive. I am not a politician. I don't have a political record for them to lean on. They all do, which means I get to look at your record and what you've done and challenge whether you can legitimately say, not just with the cameras rolling, but in front of my face, that you actually operated on behalf of what was in the best interest of all of America. Who's gonna pull that off in front of my face? Good luck with that. I wish they would. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd love to sit up here and tell you that I didn't mean what I said, but I do.
What do you guys think about that? Like, tell me, what do you think about that? Because you know what I'm about to do? I'm about to tell you exactly what I think about it. So let's talk about it, guys. Recent polls that were conducted show that Stephen A. Smith is in a striking distance between other Democratic potential contenders, which is interesting because Stephen is not a politician, guys. He is a political commentator and a sports commentator. He's probably more well known for what he does in the sports field, but recently he has also started talking about politics, and people love that. He's doing such a great job in that, so he's also getting known in that field. So to have him like poll so closely to actual politicians, like people who are currently holding positions either at state level or federal level, I mean, it's telling. It's interesting, to say the least. He is charismatic. He is incredibly intelligent. He's incredibly gifted in what he does. And I would say, like, he has really excelled at everything he has done so far that we know of. Like I said, he excelled in the sports world. He's excelling now in political commentary. And, you know, people like him because he comes across as very authentic. He comes across as being himself and just kind of saying it as he sees it, not really caring about trying to sound a certain way or align with certain people and not align with certain, you know what I mean? Like, he comes across as that. And I think that's really why a lot of people developed a liking for him. The question though is, would that be enough to win the presidency? Basically, would that be enough? Critics would say, and critics probably already saying, that he doesn't have political experience, and for that reason, he shouldn't run. But is that still a requirement now? Considering recent developments, it's obvious that people no longer care about whether you have political experience or not. They would vote for you if they like you as a person, as against if you have political experience. Is that necessarily the best way to vote? I don't know. It depends on who you ask, but I'm just saying, I don't know that it's still a requirement now, having that experience. It used to be before, but not anymore. And I also think that, like, a lot of people like people that they feel they can trust, that come across as being honest, that come across as being themselves. And we have seen that recently. The language of politics and the political landscape that existed before now, if you ask me, is pretty much dead. You know, the whole idea of the politician going into an interview and answering questions without actually answering questions and sounding a specific way and always like aligning on issues that they feel they have to align on and not aligning on issues they feel like they don't have to, you know, all of that. I don't know that that will sell anymore. I mean, we've seen it. It's obviously not selling anymore. And I'm not talking about either side of the aisle. Like this for me, I think it applies to everybody. So it's like, as long as you want to run for a political position, especially of that magnitude, one of the most important qualities as of now is you being able to come across as someone that is honest, someone that is truly meaning what they're saying. We know that he has it. He says it as he sees it, as he feels it. He has people on his show that he doesn't agree with, and he still is able to have respectful conversations and respectful disagreements on his show. So we know he's not afraid to say his opinion. He's also not afraid to talk to people that he doesn't necessarily agree with. And that has gained him audiences from both sides of the aisle, funny enough. Like, he has viewers that are both Democrats, Republicans, independents. Like, he has all sorts of viewers because people just respect the fact that he is not afraid to have conversations regardless of who he's having the conversation with. And that probably could help him. One of the challenges that I definitely see that he would have if he does decide to run is that they're going to try to rip him apart. You know how politics is. Politics is a very, very dirty game. And politicians always like to paint the other person as a devil incarnate. Like, that's what always happens. And so I already see them doing that with him. I already see his opponents being like, oh, he's this, he's that, stories coming up, whether true or not. Like, I would expect that to happen, and I would really hate for that to happen to him. To the contrast of that, though, one thing he has really succeeded in doing is building an audience that kind of feels like they know him. So people do not want perfection. People want relatability and honesty. If you're able to own your mistakes and you're able to come across as sincere and honest, I do think he would be able to overcome that specific hurdle. Because a lot of people will be like, okay, so he did this in the past, so what? Okay, so he said, oh, so what? But this is what this guy is saying now, and this is who he is, and I trust that, and I like that, and I respect that. You know, I'm not perfect either. I'm thinking that a lot of people will probably think that way. Some people, of course, would not, but I think there are a lot of people that would. And also, I think at the end of the day, it's really going to come down to who the options are and how he feels at that time. I think that's what he means when he says he's leaving the door open. He has a very successful career right now. I don't know that if I were in his shoes, I would ever choose politics over the career he has. I would never do that. And that also is very telling about his reasons behind considering doing this. I don't think it's because of personal ambition, because he has always said he's not interested in politics. He is very good at what he does, and he's getting so much recognition right now. Why would you even want to ruin that with entering the dirty game that is politics? Guys, I don't like politics. Like, I would never, ever. But he's considering it, you know. And for me, like, I like him as a commentator. I like his show. I think, honestly, if you guys have time, absolutely go watch it. I think he is very, very entertaining, charismatic. Like I said before, brilliant. Would that be enough to win the presidency, guys? I don't know. This is the truth. I don't know. But I think most especially, you know what it will depend on? It will depend on the state of the country at that time. And I think it would depend on the candidates from both parties. Like, who are the candidates? The state of the country is going to affect people's state of mind and how open they would be to having someone who is not a politician possibly become president again. And the people that he will be running against will absolutely also determine that, because there's some people that they're so connected to a brand that right now is considered by many to be toxic, that it will be very difficult for people to see them in a different light, no matter how much they try.
When I think about me, and I think about me running for president of the United States, let me re-emphasize that I am woefully unqualified. But a lot of people say so is he, and you put him in. A lot of people look at his cabinet members and the positions he has them in. They're there. Let me tell you something about Stephen A. Smith. Let me get this out of the way. Again, I would create a new lane. I'd be a centrist. Not quite like Clinton having to be dragged by Newt Gingrich to work with the right so you can ultimately leave office with a surplus. I would have done so voluntarily. I want to work with both sides of the aisle. I'd have Democrats and Republicans in my cabinet. They would be the ones butting heads and fighting, but their mandate would be to come to me with an idea that works for America. No one can have everything. In other words, I'm building a coalition. That's what I would want to do. Not just a stance. That wouldn't be me. One of my friends wrote notes for me and stuff like that because he was ironing out, man, if you were running for president, man, this is what you should be. Some things he said that were right, some things he said that were wrong. Because it's amazing, no matter how much I'm on television, no matter how much I'm in the public eye, people still don't know who the hell I am. So let me give you an idea of who that person is. It's about problem solving. It's about fixing the issues that really, really matter. It's about caring about all of America, not just a segment of our population. It's about all of those things. You know who I am, just like you know who Donald Trump is. That's the problem with the Democratic Party. You don't know who the hell they are, and you don't know who their leader, who can lead them. You don't have any clue. I think a guy like Wes Moore out of Maryland could do it. I think a guy like Josh Shapiro out of Pennsylvania could do it. But we all know they'll have their critics. From a national perspective, you talk about Wes Moore as a governor of Maryland, Josh Shapiro as a governor of Pennsylvania. Okay, those are localized individuals. Andrew Cuomo trying to come back as mayor of New York. He was about to be a four-term governor in New York before his troubles invaded the proceedings and he was booted out of office. He had to resign from office, and now he's trying to make a comeback. Of course, there are individuals as professional politics who are far more qualified than me. But haven't y'all been paying attention? The American people clearly don't want politicians. They don't mind having a populist in the White House. They don't mind having somebody that they can lean towards and they can say, at least we know him. At least we trust that he's going to be who he is. You might not like Donald Trump with the tariffs. He told you he was going to do it. Some people might not like what Donald Trump is doing with the borders, but from a 95 percentile success rate, they say he's doing his job with the borders. Inflation is still an issue. A recession is in play, if not on its way. So certainly there are things that he hasn't done. But he's asking you to give him time because he's got to fight with these people. The war in Ukraine with Russia, we don't like the fact that it seems like he's siding with Russia. But what his people are saying is, wait a minute, do you want World War III? Bottom line, we're trying to stop all of this stuff. I look at Russia, I think they're trying to take control of Europe. I look at China, they're making footprints, they're gaining footprints in Africa and other places in the world. Why? Because they're looking for minerals. They want to make sure they take care of their own people. Amongst other things that they want to do. These people are not pro-America. They're anti-America. We understand they're the enemy. But what are we going to do about it? At some point in time, you got to ask yourself these questions. I don't want to come across as somebody who's trying to engage in some kind of war over identity politics. Maybe I have to monitor my tone. And that's fair. But when I think about me and what I want to do, I want you to know that I'm somebody who rejects party extremes. I'm not interested in that. I am a law and order dude. Make no mistake about that. You commit crimes, your ass gonna be in jail if I was in control. I will throw your ass in jail in a heartbeat. I don't like criminals. I don't like people who scare the public from living their normal lives. National security is a big deal with me. Trade, as opposed to trade wars, are a big deal to me. Immigration, I tell you this right now. See, crazy as it sounds. Outside of the criminals, because we don't need lawless. First of all, lawless Americans should be in jail, and lawless people who ain't Americans should be out of the country. Outside of them, guess what I'm doing, ladies and gentlemen? I'm not throwing anybody out of the country. I'm not deporting anybody. You know what I'm doing? Outside of those criminals, I'm leaving others alone. But the border's shut down. Nobody comes in. Nobody. Until we get our house in order. For at least the first year. Shutting it down. Got a year, got to get our house in order. That's how I look at it. I'm saying all of this to say, while I'm no aficionado, I'm not completely lost and oblivious to the problems that are pervasive in our country. It matters to me. I want to make sure that it matters to you. And I want to make sure that you understand that in the process of us doing these things, we got to do better. We just have to. I'm thinking about some stuff that I wrote down. 4-tier flat tax with the top 1%. Making $200,000 or so. I'm looking at it from the standpoint that, why do I support a flat tax? I'm tired of you coming to me and one day it's 33, another way is 35, another way is 39% of my money that you could take as the federal government. Nah. Why can't you take 27%? Let's just throw that out. Workers 55 years and younger can diversify a percentage of their income from Social Security. One of my boys gave me that idea. I kind of like that. Kind of like that. How about Congress only being allowed to spend 30% of tax revenue? How about them being forced to sit in the nation's capital and actually work for the American people instead of themselves? I'm still baffled as to how you can be a congressional figure or a Senate figure and you may have entered the nation's capital with debt. But now when you look at your financial portfolio, it might be worth millions. What's going on there? I don't understand that. And then I look at a $37 trillion debt. Am I supposed to believe that we're just spending willy-nilly on all of these things and no money is coming into your pockets as politicians? What's the number one reason I tell you, outside of being private and not wanting stress in my life, as to why I'm not interested in politics? It's because I'm getting paid. And what I'm getting paid, politics ain't gonna pay me. That's my position. And then I look at some of these reports of what politicians are worth. I'm not going to mention any names, but we got politicians that were in debt, that were paying student loans. We got politicians that didn't have but so much money. Their net worth was in the thousands, and now it's millions. How? How? I'm just saying. By the way, one of my boys gave me this idea. Congress and Senate only in D.C. 2 weeks per quarter to vote. Reduce the cost. What the hell you living in D.C. for? For what? You ain't doing no work. Just a suggestion. All I'm saying is that as you look at these things and you look at me, I am very sincere when I tell you I have no desire to be a politician. I have no interest. But I have been asked by folks in the business world, folks in corporate America, folks on Capitol Hill, plus folks who are friends of mine, to strongly reconsider and to at least leave the door open to the possibilities, because you never know what state our country could be in the next 3 years or so. Stephen A., just don't shut the door. Just don't shut the door. Please, just don't shut the door. That's all I was saying yesterday.
So it will be interesting to see how that turns out. But I really want to hear what you think. I want to hear your views, your opinions. Like, don't just leave me here to be talking about this by myself. Tell me what you think. Do you think that Stephen should run for president of the United States? And if you think he should, would you vote for him? And why would you vote for him? I would love to hear that. And thank you again for tuning in. I love you guys so much. God bless. Mwah.